Have you ever felt an invisible thread tugging at your spirit, urging you to step away from the noise, the movement, the constant demands of the world outside? Not because you're sad or disinterested, not because you're shy or socially awkward, but because something deeper within you whispers, "Not today." It's not a retreat. It's not avoidance. It's a soul-level instinct that says, this moment, right here, is meant for inner alignment, not outer performance. Society may brand it antisocial. Friends might label it strange. But what if the world is wrong? What if that yearning to remain home, to embrace stillness, is not a sign of weakness, but a divine prompt? In the next few moments, you're going to uncover 6 profound spiritual truths about those who feel most alive, not in the center of crowds, but in the sanctuary of their own solitude. By the time we reach the end of this revelation, you may come to see that your isolation has never been about hiding. It has always been about becoming. If what you've just heard stirs something familiar within you, if it feels less like new information and more like remembering, then trust that. This message was meant for you. Go ahead, let your energy acknowledge that resonance. Press like, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment with the number 99, a number that vibrates with the spiritual frequency of release, completion, and preparation for elevation. Because this is more than just another video. This may be the first time someone finally puts into words what your soul has been trying to express all along. Truth 1, you're not hiding, you're healing, you're not avoiding life, you're aligning with it. There's a subtle but powerful difference. When you step away from the chaos, you're not shrinking from your responsibilities. You're stepping into your real power. The world outside moves at an unnatural pace. It celebrates noise, glorifies exhaustion, rewards distraction. Conversations lack depth, interactions feel transactional, and success is often measured by how loudly you can broadcast your busyness. But for you, someone whose spirit is tuned to a different frequency, it's all just static. You don't avoid the crowd out of fear. You resist it because it doesn't feed you, and your soul has had enough of starving. You probably asked yourself why the very things that energize others drain you, why the constant hustle feels like spiritual suffocation instead of inspiration, why the room full of people feels more isolating than being completely alone. That's not a flaw in your design. It's a clue to your assignment. Your soul isn't calibrated for chaos. It's synchronized with truth. And truth, in its purest form, rarely flourishes in the fray. Chosen ones, those marked with deeper awareness, understand this intuitively. The world outside may sustain the body, but it often depletes the spirit. So you retreat, not to escape, but to regenerate. Within the 4 walls of your sanctuary, you find what most people search their whole lives for: peace. Not the kind that comes from a good playlist or a scented candle, but the kind that arises from sacred alignment. Your home is not just a physical shelter. It's a spiritual refuge, a temple where your energy recalibrates and your essence returns to its original rhythm. And sometimes the impulse to stay home isn't even yours. It's your higher self pulling you inward, shielding you from noise so you can hear the whisper of your next divine instruction. In these moments of sacred stillness, something extraordinary happens. You begin to receive, not with your hands, but with your spirit. Intuitive nudges arrive unannounced. Chills rise for no logical reason. Dreams become more than random flickers. They feel like divine downloads. You start seeing through the surface of things, recognizing patterns, energies, truths others miss entirely. This isn't imagination, it's spiritual sharpening. The more you honor the silence, the more it speaks. And the more you obey its call, the more powerfully it reveals your path. So the next time you find yourself pulling away from the world, remember, this isn't rejection, it's refinement. Your soul is preparing for something your mind may not fully grasp yet. And the more you honor that call to stillness, the more equipped you'll be when it's time to step into what's next. Because chosen ones aren't meant to stay hidden, but they are often hidden for a season of preparation. Truth, too. Your energy is sacred, and you feel everything. You've likely heard it your whole life. You're too sensitive. You overthink things. You're being dramatic. But what if none of those were flaws? What if they were misinterpretations of your spiritual gift? Because that's what sensitivity really is, a sacred sensor, not a burden. While most people enter a room and see objects, you enter and feel vibrations. You detect the subtle tension in someone's tone, the unspoken grief in their silence, the shadow behind the smile. You're not just observing, you're perceiving. You're not just aware, you're awake. This level of spiritual discernment is both a gift and a responsibility. It means your environment impacts you at a soul-deep level. Crowded spaces don't just overwhelm you, they short-circuit your energy. You feel drained, disoriented, disassembled. That's because you're walking through life without energetic armor, bare-skinned in a storm of invisible frequencies. Every glare, every suppressed emotion, every energetic mismatch seeps into you. And if you're not intentional, it begins to weigh you down. That's why your soul insists on space, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Your home becomes not just a preference, but a sanctuary. It's your safe zone, your energetic filter, your spiritual detox chamber. While others thrive on the noise, you need the quiet to remain whole. You're not fragile, you're finely tuned. And like any finely tuned instrument, your sound only stays pure in the right environment. Exposure to chaotic frequencies distorts your resonance. You weren't meant to be everywhere, with everyone all the time. Your presence is sacred, and sacred things are not casually distributed. They are preserved, protected, and positioned with purpose. That's why you find yourself pulled away from conversations that feel performative, from environments that echo ego instead of authenticity, from people who speak with their mouths but lie with their energy. And it's not judgment, it's preservation. Your clarity matters, your vibration matters. Your mission depends on your ability to maintain both. But there's an even deeper layer to this gift. What if your sensitivity isn't just about shielding yourself, but about preparing you for a role only a few can fulfill? What if you were designed not to escape the noise, but to interpret it, to transmute it, to translate pain into wisdom, confusion into clarity, and chaos into calm? That's not a passive calling. That's spiritual leadership. And that leadership begins with energetic mastery. Mastery that can only be cultivated in the sacred stillness of your own space, because soon your gift won't just be about protection. It will be a tool for profound transformation. Truth 3. Your soul operates on divine timing. In a world that moves like a machine, faster, louder, busier, you've probably felt like the outlier. While others sprint, you wait. While others post and produce and perform, you pause. They say you're behind, but your soul says otherwise. Because your pace isn't based on pressure. It's aligned with purpose. You don't crave speed. You crave depth, not movement, but meaning, not momentum, but alignment. And alignment doesn't obey the clock. It obeys spirit. While they measure progress by metrics and milestones, you wait for the invisible yes, the sacred signal that rises not from strategy, but from your center. And though the world may not understand it, your spirit does. It knows that timing without alignment leads to burnout. It knows that acceleration without direction leads to collapse. So you wait, patiently, quietly, not because you're lazy, but because you're wise. At home, you're free from the artificial urgency of the world. You're not being pushed to prove, to perform, to produce. Instead, you're allowed to feel the pulse of your own divine rhythm, and it's in that rhythm where the real magic begins. Periods of stillness that seem unproductive to others become seasons of profound preparation. The quiet months that appear stagnant externally are actually incubating sacred revelations internally. And then, without warning, it begins. The shift, the momentum. The doors that were once sealed shut open with ease. The insights flow like a river. What once felt delayed now arrives in divine perfection. The world calls it luck or overnight success. But you know the truth. It was divine timing all along, and now your soul begins to understand what it always knew. You weren't late. You were being aligned. You weren't passive. You were being prepared, and the stillness that once felt like waiting was never idle. It was fertile, pregnant with purpose, sacred in its silence. You weren't falling behind. You were moving at the pace of destiny. There comes a moment in the life of a chosen soul when the quiet becomes more than absence. It becomes revelation. While the world demands acceleration, your spirit chooses incubation. That sacred timing you're aligned with begins to reveal not only your next step, but your next identity. And it is here, in this quiet in-between, that a deeper truth rises to the surface, ready to be received not by the ears, but by the heart. Because you are not lonely. You are connected on a higher plane. Loneliness is the label the world attaches to what it cannot comprehend. It assumes that absence of company must mean absence of connection. But for you, the one who sits comfortably in silence, who communes with invisible realities and breathes in the stillness, you've come to understand that solitude is not a void. It's a vessel. Most people fear being alone because when the distractions fade, the real voice begins to speak. And that voice, for many, is uncomfortable, but not for you. You welcome it. You sit in the silence, not to escape noise, but to listen to something deeper, something eternal. While others pack their calendars, chase events, and fill every spare moment with movement to avoid themselves, you've learned the value of sacred stillness. You light a candle not just for ambiance, but as a signal to the heavens that you are ready to receive. You listen to soft music not just for comfort, but to allow light to pour into your weary spaces. You wrap yourself in quiet mornings, not to kill time, but to be reborn in it. This is not loneliness. This is divine intimacy. So when someone asks if you ever get tired of being alone, they are speaking from a paradigm you no longer live in. Because what they call emptiness, you experience as fullness. What they see as silence, you hear as conversation. There, in the still room, with nothing but your breath and presence, you find the deepest connection. A dialogue that requires no words, only awareness. You've come to recognize the sacredness of this space where visions are born, where ideas incubate, where prayers unspoken still echo through dimensions. This isn't absence, it's presence, it's divine nearness that needs no introduction. And yes, sometimes the quiet gets heavy. Sometimes the stillness stretches too far, and you wonder if anyone else hears what you hear, feels what you feel, understands the ache that is not born of pain, but of depth. But even then, even in the silence that lingers long into the night, you are not diminished, you're expanding, because there is a transformation happening in your solitude that cannot be seen by the untrained eye. Your inner world is becoming so rich, so alive, that the external world starts to feel optional. The truth is, you are being prepared in secret, refined in silence. You don't need applause. You need alignment. You're not craving attention. You're cultivating intimacy with your Creator, with your soul, with the destiny whispering from beyond the veil. In this process, your spirit begins to stretch, not outward, but upward. You no longer crave recognition because you've tasted revelation. You're not seeking crowds because you've found communion. And in that sacred space, something begins to shift permanently. Your fears lose volume. Your doubts begin to dissolve. Your faith deepens into something unshakable, unexplainable. Because now you know what most never learn. The quiet is your armor. The stillness that protects you today is fortifying a spiritual resilience that will make you untouchable tomorrow. But even more than protection, there is a door hidden within this silence, a spiritual portal that does not open until the soul has sat long enough in stillness. And once you pass through, everything changes. Behind that door is not an escape from the world. It's a call to change it. A revelation that you were never truly alone, but surrounded all along by divine forces shaping you for a purpose beyond comprehension. This is what most never reach. This is what your silence has been preparing you for. And now, as you stand on the threshold of that door, you begin to see your home in a new light, not just as a structure, but as something holy. Because Truth 5 reveals this: your house is your altar. Where others see walls and furniture, you see sacred ground. What others dismiss as ordinary, you recognize as spiritually alive. Your home is no longer just a place to sleep or pass time. It is the temple where your soul meets the invisible. That candle you light isn't just for ambiance. It's a declaration. That corner where you journal or pray isn't just comfort. It's communion. Every object becomes imbued with meaning. That well-worn book becomes revelation. That chair where you rest becomes a throne of clarity. That music that fills the space with stillness becomes a frequency that welcomes the divine. You're not decorating, you're consecrating. You're not tidying, you're tuning. Every act within your space becomes ritual, and every ritual becomes realignment. You don't just return home to recharge, you come home to remember who you are. Because here, in this sacred container, there is no need for masks. You don't have to translate your spirit for the world to understand. You can cry without explaining, pray without performance, dream without judgment. This is the one place where your inner reality finally reflects in your outer world. And that mirror, that sacred reflection, begins to show you not who you were, but who you're becoming. Slowly, your space evolves. It becomes more than familiar. It becomes sacred geometry, aligned with the divine rhythm of your purpose. A womb where the next version of you is conceived in stillness. A sanctuary where divine instructions arrive mid-silence. A field of alignment so strong It protects you from unseen energies, shields you from chaos, and sharpens your discernment. And the more you pour into your space, your prayers, your intentions, your energy, the more it begins to pour back into you. This is the unseen transaction of spiritual alignment. A house transformed into a sanctuary does more than shelter you. It prepares you. It carries you. It awakens you. Because when your home becomes an altar, you're no longer just occupying it. You're communing with it. And no matter how humble that space may be, it holds the frequency of something eternal. It doesn't need luxury to become holy. It needs presence. It needs reverence. And that you've given. But here's the mystery still unfolding. This altar you've built in silence hasn't only been healing you, it's been shaping you for a mission that must emerge from stillness. Your sanctuary is the launch pad for your public destiny, because what you've cultivated in private is now ready to impact the world in ways no one saw coming. Yet, there's a tension, because when you finally emerge, those around you may not understand what has taken place, and that leads us to Truth 6. They won't understand, and that's okay. You see, the world doesn't know what to do with someone who's been radically transformed in silence. They measure growth in visibility, not depth. So when they look at you and say, "You need to get out more or you're missing out," they are revealing their own fear of stillness, not your flaw. They don't understand your silence because they've never been brave enough to face their own. They don't understand your solitude because they've avoided the mirror it holds up. And they certainly don't understand your stillness because, to them, noise equals meaning. But you know better. You've come to a place in your journey where being misunderstood is no longer an insult. It's confirmation. It means you've shifted frequencies. You're no longer orbiting the same energy fields as those who seek validation from noise. Your soul has graduated into a realm where alignment matters more than applause. You were never designed to fit in. You were called to disrupt the illusion, to cut through the fog with presence, to anchor light in a world addicted to distraction. And that calling requires separation. It requires refinement. It requires silence. So when people label you too deep, too intense, or too distant, let them. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. You've tasted what false connection feels like, and your soul no longer has the appetite for performance. You no longer owe the world an explanation for your peace. You no longer shrink to soothe someone else's discomfort. You are not obligated to apologize for your sensitivity, your silence, your sacred rhythms, because what they call disconnection is actually your spiritual refinement. What they call isolation is actually your anointing. And what's most beautiful is this. One day, those same voices that questioned your quiet will come seeking the peace you carry. The stillness they mocked will become their medicine. The clarity you cultivated in secret will draw them like a lighthouse through their storms. Because the chosen ones don't shout, but they are never ignored. You weren't born to be explained. You were born to be experienced, and those meant to walk with you. They will feel your frequency, and they won't try to lower it. They will rise to meet it. So continue. Walk slowly. Move deeply. Protect your peace like it's oxygen. Because spiritually, it is. Something divine has been forming within you, and it is nearly ready. All the silence, the solitude, the separation has not been wasted. It's been sacred preparation, and soon, when the time is right, you won't re-enter the world the same. You will emerge anointed, clear, and untouchable. But before that happens, one final truth remains, one last revelation that will echo through the soul long after this message ends. In the final moment, you'll discover what all of this has been building toward, not just a transformation, but the unlocking of your true identity. There comes a point on this quiet, sacred journey when everything begins to make sense, not in the logical way the world demands, but in the profound cellular way your spirit recognizes as truth. The stillness wasn't punishment, it was permission. The solitude wasn't exile, it was elevation. All along what you thought was retreat was actually refinement. And now, the final unveiling begins, not with fanfare, not with flashing lights or the loud applause of the masses, but with a knowing, a deep, unwavering knowing that everything you've experienced, the silence, the solitude, the questions, the aching disconnection, was not a detour, but a divine passage. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to disrupt the illusion by embodying truth. In a world desperately addicted to noise, distraction, performance, and external validation, you chose something radical. You chose silence. You chose alignment. You chose depth over popularity and presence over performance. And that wasn't weakness. That was spiritual intelligence, an inner awareness that refused to sell your peace for approval or trade your authenticity for attention. Your quiet choices were not small. They were seismic. Every time you sat in stillness when others ran to distraction, every time you turned inward when the world demanded you reach outward, every time you guarded your space, your energy, your spirit, you were taking back your power. Your silence is not emptiness. It is sacred space, a holy container where you were stripped of everything false until only the eternal remained. It is in this stillness, this sacred quiet, where your calling has been carved, not with thunder, but with the gentle chisel of divine timing. No one else saw it, but heaven did. Every quiet morning, every lonely night, every moment you chose prayer instead of panic, stillness instead of striving, presence instead of pretending, you were building something unseen but unshakable. And now you see it clearly. This entire journey wasn't about hiding. It was about revealing. But first, you had to meet yourself again. Not the self shaped by expectations or the self molded by cultural scripts, but your original self, your divine blueprint, the version of you that existed before the world told you who to be. That version had to be remembered, reawakened, restored. And the only place that could happen was in the sacred solitude you've been walking through. So no, you were never disconnected. You were being realigned. You were never avoiding life. You were anchoring your purpose. You weren't withdrawing from people. You were returning to source. That strange pull to stay home, that desire for silence that others couldn't understand, that deep inner craving for stillness, it wasn't laziness. It was a call from heaven, summoning you to higher ground, separating you for sacred use, marking you for a mission that couldn't be born in the noise. And now something inside you is rising. You feel it, not as panic or pressure, but as holy urgency. A sacred fire that doesn't burn chaotically, but burns clean and clear, illuminating everything with purpose. It's the voice within whispering, "You're almost ready." And this time, you believe it, not because someone validated you, but because you know it. Your stillness has become strength. Your silence has become power. And your home? It's no longer just a place, it's a portal, a spiritual threshold between the seen and the unseen, where divine downloads flow without resistance, where your light sharpens in the dark, where the invisible becomes not just real, but tangible. Within that space, you have remembered truths the world forgot. You have healed wounds others ignored. You have recalibrated your frequency so precisely that now, when you step out again, it won't be in search of something. It will be in service of something. You won't walk into the world looking to fit in. You will return carrying the frequency of freedom, of clarity, of divine truth. And that truth won't require explanation. It will speak for itself through your presence, through your peace, through the undeniable authority of someone who has met the divine in silence and come back transformed. So the next time someone looks at you with confusion and asks, "Why do you spend so much time alone?" you won't need to defend yourself. You'll simply smile, not from arrogance, but from deep knowing. And if you feel led, you'll say, "Because that's where I hear God the clearest." Not as a performance, not as a statement, but as a quiet declaration from a soul who has stopped running from itself. Let that phrase echo in your spirit, "My home is my altar." Let it be more than a comment. Let it be a consecration, because that space you've honored in secret is preparing to launch something public. And when you rise, you will not rise the same. You will rise anointed, clear, focused, and undeniable. Your presence will not be loud, but it will be unmistakable. Your words will not be many, but they will be sacred. Your steps will not be rushed, but they will be divinely ordered. You won't need to be seen to feel real. You won't need to be praised to stay strong. You will move with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their power doesn't come from outside. It flows from alignment with the divine. So hold your silence like a sword. Let it cut through distraction, expectation, and noise. Treat your solitude like sacred fire. Don't just survive it, let it purify you. Guard your peace like your life depends on it, because spiritually, it does. In a world that feeds on performance and lives for reaction, your peace is a rebellion. Your stillness is a revolution. Your inner sanctuary is a strategy for survival. And beyond that, it's the foundation of transformation. You are not just chosen, you are sealed. You are marked with purpose that cannot be diluted by cultural expectation or erased by misunderstanding. The silence has not made you smaller. It has made you more precise. The solitude has not made you weaker. It has made you potent. The waiting was not empty. It was sacred gestation. And now the birth is near, not of a new life, but of a new level of being. You are rising, not as a reaction to pressure, but as a response to purpose. The world will wonder where you came from. They'll see your calm and feel something ancient. They'll hear your words and sense something eternal. They'll feel your presence and recognize something they can't name but can't deny. You won't need to argue. You won't need to convince. You will simply be. And that being, rooted, clear, aligned, will become your offering. You are not stepping into the world as a seeker. You are stepping forward as a messenger, not because you read something, but because you've lived it. You've walked the path others were too afraid to tread. You've sat in silence long enough to recognize the voice of truth when it speaks. You've cultivated clarity so rare it hums through your energy, and now, without force or fanfare, without noise or need, you walk into your mission, whole, awakened, ready. Because the ones who are chosen don't just speak light, they become it. So let the world wonder, let them ask questions, let them project their confusion. You owe them nothing, not an explanation, not an apology. You've given your time to silence, your heart to healing, your soul to the sacred. And now, you are the result of that holy investment. Walk forward knowing that. Carry it in your posture, your presence, your peace. Because everything, every quiet morning, every unanswered question, every sacred night of stillness has been building toward this. You are not emerging. You are being revealed, and this revealing is not for applause. It is for alignment. It is for purpose. It is for those still walking through their own silence, looking for a sign that their stillness is not in vain. And when they see you, when they feel your peace, they will remember who they are. So go now, not hurried, but holy, not loud, but luminous. The time of hiding has passed. The time of refining is complete. The silence has spoken. The stillness has finished its work. And now you are ready, not for the world's approval, but for heaven's assignment. Not for fame, but for fulfillment. Not to impress, but to impact. You have become the altar. You have become the portal. You have become the proof that silence is not absence, it is activation. That solitude is not loneliness, it is intimacy. That stillness is not weakness, it is sacred strength. You are chosen, you are sealed, you are rising. And soon, the world will not just see you, it will feel you, because the quietest ones often carry the loudest truth. And now, that truth lives in you.